Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It is so great to see all of you and to be back. And thank you for all of your good wishes. I felt your strength and your prayers and just the energy this past week, and I do appreciate it. So we're going to talk about a topic that I hear more than anything else. There's no other word that I hear more than the word overwhelmed. And overwhelmed is synonymous. It means the same thing. It is the same experience as our topic today, burnout. And so I wanted to bring in the whole concept of burnout because people use different language, and language is powerful. And sometimes people don't realize that they're talking about the same experience and they think it's a different thing. It isn't. And we're going to be working from this great little book. It's a New York Times bestseller by Emily Nagoski, and it's titled Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. All right, and it's a really user-friendly, easy read, sound little book. I'm not encouraging people necessarily to go out and buy more books or to add to your collection, but I'm sure that the library would have a copy of this, and it's worth having a look at. We're going to call overwhelmed burnout today, and I'm hoping that there are lots of questions in the chat today. So, what is burnout? Because we all have a sense, we've all experienced, we know how that feeling of being overwhelmed or burnt out feels physically, and how it joins and compounds itself with emotions. And when we're overwhelmed or we're burned out, sometimes the lack of emotion, the lack of ability to be able to feel anything is one extreme, but the other extreme is that the stability of our emotions are like high and off, and that stability, that ability, and it takes a lot of energy to engage and to suppress emotions, or to get ready for the burst of adrenaline and energy. And it creates a wobbly kind of feeling in us, all right, when we can feel anything, especially when we're in the grip of it. And the grip quite often comes with jolts, and jolts can be very exhausting and very disruptive. So, oh my goodness, the names, I'm going to spell the names because they're 6 city blocks long. All right, Herbert Freudenberg, Freudenberg, in case you're interested, created the term burnout in 1975. His research, and he did a good bit of it, was defined by 3 components to constitute burnout. And I want you, as I said before, to use that term burnout and overwhelmed synonymously. First thing that he noted happening among the subjects he studied was emotional exhaustion. Hands up, anybody who has ever had a state of emotional exhaustion. All right, how did it feel? And the fatigue that comes from having cared too much or cared for too long, that has worn you out emotionally. You can't find the off switch. You can't find the destabilizing energy. And it's almost like you're being dragged behind a runaway horse. All right, you are immersed in it, in the intensity of it, or the same thing is true. It's the same thing when it's the other. You feel a low level something, but all right, and you can't feel anything. Okay, so the second factor that he noted for it to constitute burnout or overwhelmed is depersonalization. You are depleted of empathy, caring, and compassion. It's not that you don't care, but you can't get there anymore. You're worn out. You've got nothing to give. Nothing to give, despite the fact that quite often when you see a situation, you internally make a note, this matters. It is important. Why can't I feel anything? Why can't I don't have anything more to give. You feel berated and you feel unempowered, like powerless to do anything about this vision or this situation. TV ads are huge for that. All right. And they come with such great intensity. Has anybody seen the animal cruelty ones, or, the pictures of children crying in other countries, and you just feel compelled, but you can't feel anything at that point. You're used up. The third component is a decreased sense of accomplishment. This is huge too, because this is where it starts to eat away at your foundation. Feeling nothing, all right? There's nothing that you can do that would make a difference. You can't think of a way to help. You feel powerless, you feel useless, you feel inadequate, you feel helpless. All right, helpless is a really bad state of mind to let yourself get into, because when you go to helpless and you get locked there, you can't use the strengths you inherently have. You can't get to them. You can't figure them out. When I asked a few weeks ago for everyone to write down what are your A-list needs, your B-list needs, and your C-list needs, the number of people who said they couldn't think of what their needs were, it was almost like it was a new concept. That is an epidemic sign of burnout and of being overwhelmed. Overwhelmed and burnout don't lead anywhere you want to go. So don't give into it. The other thing that Herbert, I won't pronounce his last name, discovered in his research is very similar to hoarding, which is why it's a great topic for us. And even if it's just clutter, even if it's just a little buildup, even if it's just more disorganization than you're comfortable with, all of that counts with hoarding, all right? You don't have to be a diagnosable individual with hoarding disorder for all of that and this to be important for you. So some professions seem to be at higher risk, but they are not alone. Right? Anyone can feel this. Anyone can feel it. 20 to 30% of teachers, and I think that's low. Okay, I don't think the cohort of teachers was big enough in this study. If it's just 20 to 30% of teachers in America have moderately high to very high levels of burnout. Okay, have you ever seen 99% of teachers by somewhere around the first week of May hanging on like that cat? You ever seen that picture of the cat hanging on for summer, for a tiny little bit of a break from the intensity and the demands? The same is true for other forms of teaching, university professors, international humanitarian aid workers were also noted. Medical professionals, my goodness, and even think of the intensity of COVID and what that has done to burnout among our professionals. And so anybody, when it says medical professionals, we're not just talking about doctors and nurses. We're talking about all of the support staff for medical provision of medical services. They're estimating, and this is 1975. All right, what is it today? What are these poor people like today, when in 1975 it was 52% were suffering from moderately high to extremely high burnout? So the thing that I know with respect to hoarding, which also appears to be relevant to this study that this researcher has developed, is any profession where the storage, retrieval of hard copy or electronic documentation is key to their professional performance. And so we're looking at doctors, nurses, teachers, professors, lawyers. Did I mention teachers? Did I mention doctors? Researchers, translators, interestingly enough. Any caring profession, any service-related profession seems to be at a higher risk for burnout because of the need to, in that caring profession, in that service provision, which requires contact with people who are compromised in some way, for teaching, where you really need a lot of documentation, you need a lot of material, and whether it's in hard copy or electronic copy, it's the same thing. So the growing area of research now is in parental burnout. And imagine if that was a growing area of research when this book was written, and when was that? Let me have a look here. 2019, all right. Imagine what they'd be saying now about the effects of parental burnout and caregiver burnout with the effects of COVID, right? I think you're probably looking, and I don't believe I'm exaggerating, be interested in the feedback from the group, whether we are closing in on 99.9%. Trying to be a worker at home to maintain employment and performance, and having children who are trying to be educated online at the same time, or just supervised online. I witnessed through making home visits to parents with young children who are stuck in hoarding situations, children trying to take classes online. What chaos. My heart went out not just to the teachers, but to the kids who are going to have to be playing catch up when they get back to in person. Not effective. Certainly not what I witnessed over the last year and a half. And so research has found that the first element in burnout, the first thing you want to really pay attention to, is your level of emotional exhaustion. Hands up anybody who has felt that either inception of emotional exhaustion or has awoken to discover that they are emotionally exhausted. Have you ever had a time in your life All right. And that emotional exhaustion strongly and negatively impacts your ability for good self-care. Whether it's emotional self-care, whether it's maintaining your environment so that it supports peace and tranquility and productivity and the happy life you want to have, or whether it is more about work, because perhaps you know, whether you get paid for it or not, the work you do right now anyway is certainly happening in your environment. That emotional exhaustion is like, at its best, is like a slow leak. At its worst, it's like having dust in your face. You can't see anything, you can't get anywhere, you can't process anything else. You're done. All right. So let's look at what we throw this term emotional or emotion around. And we all believe we know what it means. I'd like everybody just to kind of focus a bit on this definition so that we're all on the same page. So let's look at what an emotion is precisely and how in heaven's name you can possibly exhaust it. So emotions are basically the product of neurochemical chemicals that are sent to your brain, hormones, other chemicals. But with emotions, it's in response to some stimulus. It can be a positive, a neutral, or a negative stimulus. So let's just have a little imagery here. Imagine that you're in a room and you see somebody across the room that you care about, right? Presumably that's a positive caring. And your brain will automatically release specific chemicals that trigger a range of physiological changes as well. You'll feel it in your body, not just in the thoughts in your mind or your reaction in your mind. And those changes are a range of things depending on your relationship. And things like your heart will beat faster, all right? Your hormone levels will shift. You may not feel it, but you may feel the effects of that. Maybe your tummy will flutter. Maybe your breathing rate will change. Presumably, if you care about this person, your breathing rate will increase. If you really don't care about this person, presumably, you'll be holding your breath a little and taking a bit of a, okay, how can I get out of here? Thoughts. Anyway, but if you do care, you might take a long, deep breath and sigh. Wow, there they are. Gosh, I've been looking for them. Almost certainly, all right, your facial expression, the messenger of our body will change. Depending on your complexion, you may blush, all right? Or you may lose color. Certainly, the eyes are the portholes to the soul, right? The expression in your eyes are going to change. This is all neurotransmitters. This is all chemicals and hormones causing this, all right? And depending on the emotions you're experiencing, that will determine what the expression is in your eyes. Delight, excitement, dread, concern, caution, all right? All different chemicals. Probably, if you're speaking, the timbre of your voice. If it's a positive relationship, your voice might warm up, it might soften, all right? Or your nerves could shorten. If you're so excited. Have you ever been there? I certainly have been. Where the nerve, in your vocal cords, your nerves cause your vocal cords to shorten. When you try to speak, you sound squeaky. I remember taking 4 cups of French roast coffee with extra shots before I went into a job interview one time. And I knew all the answers and did very well in the interview. It's just that I had an out-of-body experience, kind of, where I thought, who is that person talking and how do we get her to be quiet? Because I couldn't find the off switch. I had given so much other additives to my system that my neurotransmitters were firing off like rockets. It happens. We are machines as well as humanity. Maybe you're thinking just thoughts. Maybe you're not going to speak. Maybe your eyes are not going to respond terribly, but maybe your thoughts are going to. All right. And maybe you're going to go into some kind of a reverie of memories you've spent with the person. The thoughts, the thinking, the visualization could be entirely different. It could be imagining the hopes you have and the future you want based on those hopes. Could all be kind of, how do I achieve this end? Then you feel an urgent impulse, all right, to cross the room and say hello. Or if it isn't a positive relationship, you feel an urgent impulse to beat a hasty retreat. Whatever the objective is, that's the base. The base of that is the emotion. And the emotion is based on our neurotransmitters. So many of our physical systems, all right, respond to those chemicals. And it can be a little like a runaway horse. And not just the chemicals and the hormones, but the electrical impulses that get activated by the sight of a stimulus. In this example that we're talking about, presumably the person is attractive to us. This experience, that combination based on neurotransmitters and electrical impulses, that is the foundation of our emotions, all right? They are automatic. They're there before you know it, all right? They're instantaneous. We don't stop and decide from a smorgasbord of emotions. We see somebody, we have a reaction, all right? We don't get to, in the first instance, oh, I think today I might be a little more reserved. Oh, I'll pick the reserved emotion. Hi, as opposed to, hey, all right, they're instantaneous. I want you to realize they're automatic. So if you pull some kind of a stunner move, cut yourself some slack, all right? It was an instantaneous response. And at its inception, in that first instance, it's largely involuntary. All right, that's just those neurotransmitters and hormones and electrical impulses dragging you along, probably telling the truth. So listen to them, all right? Don't waste your time denying them. Your chemical system and what it produces is based on the truth inside you, almost always. It also is happening all the time. It doesn't have to be a big stimulus, all right? The other thing too is it can be a little confusing, our emotions and our emotional response. So cut yourself some slack and don't judge yourself. The complexity can be because we can actually feel many different emotions this almost simultaneously, even in response to the same precipitating stimulus. It can be confusing. We can have mixed emotions. Emotions, even with a whole body reaction to some stimulus. Note this, whether it was good or it wasn't so good, all right? Nothing, not the best, not the worst, lasts forever. Those emotions will end and they will dissipate on their own. However, the same is true when we experience negative emotions. That's why I want to do all this background discussion with you, because so often we hold on to our negative emotions. We judge ourselves. We assess our success. We assess how much clearing up, how many decisions, how much cleaning up, how much fill in the blank. We assess, all right? And those negative emotions, when our feelings are hurt by someone, what do we say to them? What do we say to ourselves? Right? Do we own that hurt, those negative emotions? Do we bring that home and do we hold on to it? Because if you just observe it, when that happens, take a step back, put yourself on pause, please. Give yourself a break. Put yourself on pause, let it go. Just let it go. Watch it go. Watch it fade. I had an experience with that when I was away, and I thought, okay, this might be time to walk the talk. And I did. And you know what? It happens sometimes this creeps up on you in the context of a larger burden or weight or uncertainty, something that it isn't exactly negative, but it isn't exactly positive either. And it's almost like being in a fog of experience or stimulus. It's an overarching something, right? Atmosphere. Sometimes we're more susceptible then to holding on to those negative emotions. But if you just observe them and just note, observe, let it go. Is there anything you need to do to protect yourself? Is there anything you need to do to stand up for yourself and your rights and your needs, your boundaries, your limits? How much talking have we done about that? All right. If you didn't, when I said that, have 3 or 4 ideas, bang, bang, bang in a row about things that you would need to set boundaries and limits for, I want you to go back, please, and re-listen to all of the series on boundaries and limits, because this is a time when you are susceptible to bringing home the negative, maybe the negative things that were said, or criticism, or just unkindness, people's clumsiness. Sometimes they mean it and sometimes they don't. But if you hold on to it, it becomes a reality. You create that as your reality. And we have such a bad habit of holding on to the negative, like somehow it's truer than any compliment we ever got or any positive we ever got. Emotions are like tunnels. When you feel an emotion, good, bad, or indifferent, all right, no, this is a tunnel. And like tunnels, if you go all the way through to the end, all right, with them, you exit, all right? You come out the other end. You get through them. You get past their ability to influence and control you. Please remember that, okay? Don't hang on to it. It is no truer and no falser, if that's a word, than anything else. Let it be. If it's painful or it's unhappy or it's whatever, just give in to it. Let it go. Watch it exit the tunnel. If you hold on to it, you react. You treat it, you give it the meaning. It is rarely the event, almost never, the event itself that hurts you. The thing that is said or done that hurts you, almost never. It is the meaning you apply to it. And if you hold on to negative experience or any negativity, even your own, all right, your own self-judgment, your own criticism, your own blame, your own shame, for whatever, you hold on to it, you're giving it exponentially more importance than it really has. if you've done something that you need to make up for, or you need to correct, or there is some change you need to make in your approach, your beliefs, your values, whatever it is, your emotions, all right, let it go, let it go. Do clean up in aisle 11 if you have to, and then let that go, all right? It's not meant to stick around. It is not meant to become part of your identity or your destiny, all right? So, because exhaustion happens when we get stuck in an emotion. We may get stuck, though, simply because we're constantly being exposed to situations that activate that emotion. What would you need to do if you're constantly being exposed? All right. If it's someone who is frustrating you, making you angry, making you unhappy because their needs conflict with your needs in a serious way, you need to do one of two things. You either need to distance them mentally, where you don't apply the same meaning. Okay, no matter what your relationship is with these people, I don't care if you're blood brothers, all right? You can apply a different meaning and importance to people. You can make your mind up that, you know what? As soon as you start talking, I am going to be in precaution mode, and I'm going to listen neutrally. I'm going to assess. And if I disagree, or I feel offended, or I feel negative about anything you said, negative not meaning you spoke the truth and I know it, right? Short of that, what I'm going to say to myself is, the meaning I apply to this is nothing. Check the source. You are simply expressing your needs to the exclusion of my needs. I give you less importance. I may still care about you, but I give you less importance. All right? I don't carry that. If it's some other event in your life, you might think about spending less time and energy there, and how you could do that in a productive, positive way for yourself. What do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make a difference? Presumably it's not in this situation, which is wearing you out and exhausting you by overexposure. All right? Because when it's overexposure and you bring it home, what you're doing is you are immersing yourself day in, all day in, day out, every single day, immersing yourself in this swill that isn't any more true than it's negative. All right? We get trapped. We trap ourselves in our own longing for something. So, where I encounter this every day is, if acquiring is an issue, are we accepting substitutes for what we really need and what we really want? I need a little pick-me-up, so any little thing will do, even the dollar store. There is no solution to very much at the dollar store, all right? But it is a great place to go to kind of give yourself a little jolt of joy. That jolt of joy is going to sit around, and chances are it's going to break in 2 weeks. Yeah, all right? Don't accept substitutes, please. What do you really need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make a difference? All right? Or perhaps we automatically, if we don't have a real acquiring problem, or maybe we do, maybe we get stuck in saving because we have all these values, all these beliefs, like, if I spent good money on it, I haven't had my money's worth out of it. I might need it. What would happen if I gave it away and then I needed it? I want to predict the future, like I can do that. I have some kind of internal crystal ball. I guarantee you some of the things you give away you're going to need in 2 weeks, but you're still going to be drawing breath the next morning. All right? Nothing terrible is going to happen to you. Oh, you could beat yourself up and say, oh, give yourself a negative word. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's just law of averages. I'm betting you can borrow it from someone. I'm betting you've got something else that would work probably pretty much as well. Maybe not ideally, but you know what? There is nothing in your life that's going to change because you don't have the right vegetable peeler or, whatever it is. And we get stuck in that. We see what reinforces our automatic beliefs and values, feelings, insecurities. We see what we expect to see. What have we talked about before? No. Go to neutral. Don't decide. Stay there for a minute or two. Then put yourself on pause and take a step back and ask yourself, really, truly, what's going to happen? If I gave the 6th blender away, I actually was with someone who had 6 blenders this week, so that's why that expression came out. I don't mean to mock anyone. If I gave 4 of them away, all right, I'll pick the best 2 for myself. On the belief, when you change beliefs, you don't go from 0 to 100. So I have a blender. Then, because I have that feeling like I'm not really safe without a backup, I have enough for now, not forever. I'll get there, but I give the other 4 away. If some event did arise where I actually needed 3 blenders, could I not use the 2 or the 1 I have differently and prepare whatever in 3 bags? There's always a way. Watch what you tell yourself. That's how you create your truth. You want to make sure that truth is working for you and not against you. Okay? All right. And so things begin to build up when we either accept substitutes for our needs. We hold on to things because we see what we expect to see, what we want to see. We don't challenge our beliefs. We don't make ourselves every day grow, change, develop, fit with the current context of our life. All right. And maybe for some people, so we hold on to, that's the saving part of that tube. A little further down the tube is the decision tube. Decision and resolving. Okay, maybe making decisions is really difficult for you. Are you a perfectionist? Would you forgive yourself? How's your sense of humor doing these days? Especially about yourself and the fact that you're fallible. Maybe that's a skill we need to brush up a bit. So making those decisions to resolve the accumulation, maybe that's where it gets difficult. All right, that can become a stumbling block. I'd like to, but I can't, I don't even know where to start. I just, we get into that, and then procrastination becomes our welcomed but ineffective ally. I'll do it later. Put it down just for now. There is no just for now. Put it away now. It never gets easier. Just do it now. It never gets easier. All right? Never gets easier. Procrastination is not your friend. All right? That is like getting stuck in a fog. All right? You can't find your way out. When you opt for just for now and procrastination, and we all know where to go if you need to know more about procrastination. Jane Burka and Lenora Ewan's book, Procrastination, is where you need to go. All right. Yes, Leslie, you're right. It is a great book. It's my Bible on procrastination. Procrastination, all right, has been given a bad rap. It is never a good choice. It's not what I'm saying. It's been given a bad rap because actually it isn't the failure to do something. Whether you're aware of it or not, if you're stuck in procrastination and that's a problem, it goes back to being burned out. It goes back to being overwhelmed. It's not a new topic here. Procrastination actually is a choice that we make in order to avoid something that is even a more noxious stimulus. All right? That could be judging ourselves. That could be fear that we won't succeed, fear that we will succeed, fear that we're being controlled by somebody. You know, all those folks who are anti whatever they're anti, all right? That's a fear of being controlled. Not about this topic. It's not about the subject that they're fighting about. They have an internal sense of, I think, helplessness, which plays out in aggression. And they are afraid of being controlled. What they realize is they are being controlled. They're being controlled by a thought that deprives them of the right and the ability to make an informed choice. So they are already being controlled. And yet they go on, all right? If you are stuck in procrastination, if you are feeling burned out, love yourself enough to go to the library and get a copy of Dr. She's a PhD, Jane, B-U-R-K-A, and Lenora Yuen, Y-U-E-N, Procrastination, Why You Do It and How You Can Stop Now, okay? Leslie says buy it, it's worth it. You know what? If you have a problem with procrastination, and there's no judgment there, it's not a nasty title or term, okay? If you have that difficulty, you may want to get a copy of it, either in audio, okay, it's in audio, or in hard copy, in print version, and use it as a resource, because procrastination, you're very susceptible to it if you're in a state of developing or existing burnout. And that state of being overwhelmed, you're very, very susceptible to it. And it can be complicated. And Jane and Lenora give so many great strategies, and they're doable. They're easy peasy, all right? You don't have to become an emotional Olympian, all right, to follow them. They're not complicated. And to get yourself step by step out of being stuck in procrastination. Some people, all right, have to return to a very stressful job every single day. What can you do about that? There is always something you can do. Don't go to what you can't do. Start small with the smallest thing that you can do. You can always engage in better self-care. What does that do? Does it solve the problem? No, it doesn't. But it makes you more available for yourself and for whatever the challenge is. If nothing else in the moment, you can't think of anything else to do positively to move yourself out of the situation or away from it, a break from it. Start with good self-care. All right? Eat properly. Get enough rest, even if you're not sleeping well. Get a tiny bit of exercise to keep your blood and your energy moving and your stamina up, all right? Goals. Find joy. Tiny little bits of it in the day. Fun. Don't forget to play. All right, something that is play. Engage. It doesn't matter what else, unless the house is on fire. Okay, leave the house. Joy, fun, a little bit of play. Devote a little time every day to reminding yourself, engaging in something that shows you, proves to you that you are still a growing, learning, developing human being. As stuck as you feel, you still have it. You have enough of it. All right, use it. And if you can manage it, please, 15 minutes a day on the problem itself. Set a timer. Okay, because imagine now with COVID we're in our nth variation, the fourth wave this time. Who knows what number it'll be when we stop. Maybe you are working from home due to COVID. All right. With all that saves you, it also saddles you with something. There is nothing that is exactly positive and negative. Okay. All right. We're going to go over to the chat room and we're going to look at them. And continue to start up here. Could we get the spelling? Yes, Lisa, we can. I will hold it up to the camera here. And the spelling is Emily, E-M-I-L-Y, N-A-G-O-S-K-I, and Amelia, same last names. Emily and Amelia. Burnout, the secret to unlocking the stress cycles. To everyone, I can relate, Elaine. I gave my sister's funeral. It was really difficult emotionally, but sharing stories that shared, yes, our special connection was fulfilling. I'm proud of myself for doing it. When I look back on my life and I think of the toughest things I did, and the fact that I did them, it's certainly going to be one of them. It's a way to honor her. She made lots of onerous efforts on my behalf too. How does burnout relate to hoarding? Well, I've done nothing but work with individuals and their families and the other professionals, my peers, for the last 20 years, and I haven't had one day, Barbara, where people did not tell me how overwhelmed they are. Overwhelmed and burnout are synonymous. All right. And so whatever we need to do to rectify or resolve whatever issue, in this case, you're asking about hoarding, being burned out, being overwhelmed, sucks the energy out of you. All right. That's why it's so important to notice it as soon as possible. That emotional exhaustion, all right, that frayed nerves, feeling helpless, hopeless, incompetent, unresourced to deal with a barrage of requests or tragedies that you just are on overdrive at that point. You can't care anymore. You don't have any more to give. You gave it all away. All right. That has to do with hoarding as well. And with hoarding, giving it all away isn't so much about getting rid of things. It's that you're running on empty or you're running on overdrive. If you have a comorbid factor that you're living with, and most people do, all right, ADHD, ADD, depression, anxiety, it is claiming it's the one driving the bus, all right? And so it's extremely difficult to withdraw enough from the side effects of those comorbid factors, those other life circumstances, and to make a plan and follow a plan, all right? If you have a copy of Conquer the Clutter, you're going to see all of this material, in particular procrastination. Procrastination is just one of the dead ends in being overwhelmed, one of the dead ends streets we end up on. All right. It's like you went down a route, you went down a street. It's a tunnel with no end. All right. So back out, how to back out of it. And if you're backing out and you're hoarding, you're backing out in a pretty cluttered environment, hopefully not dangerous. All right. All right. Oh, and I'm told that the audiobook version is now 100% live, and the website, the private website that goes along with it, exclusive website, is now completely operational, tabulatable, interactive. So have some fun with it. It's a great way to measure your progress. Use those resources now, and in a week or 2 or a month, do it again. You've got endless use with it. How does burnout? Bees work better on bees work better on caffeine? I am a bee. I am a bee. Okay. Only for French I know. Yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time, Joseph, for French roast coffees with extra shots. Yep. I have learned my lesson. And okay, I've been on medical leave this year, mostly due to burnout and symptoms it caused. What steps can I do to reduce the state of burnout? And yes, I am a teacher. Oh my, well, you're in good company. I'm going to suggest that you consider getting a copy of this book. If buildup, clutter, disorganization is also a factor, and sometimes that can happen in addition. You can create a hoarded environment without checking all the boxes to be diagnosed as hoarding disorder. It's hoarding a long time before you have all of those boxes ticked. All right. So it's a continuum. And so I don't mean to plug the book. If a print version of the book is a better resource for you so that you can go back over, or the audio book is also, if you learn better by listening, or you want to be doing other things, and you want to listen to it at the same time you're walking, or walking the dog, or whatever, making the bed, whatever it is. All right. If your learning representational system is not print reading, auditory, it's available in both. And also, I'm going to suggest that you get the Holy Trilogy here, the procrastination book. Again, in audio or in print version, it's a fabulous, fabulous resource. All right, and if you have this version of Conquer the Clutter, or you have the audio book version, the worksheets for procrastination, Jane Burke and Lenore Yoon were so kind. They let Sue and I develop actual worksheets that aren't part of their book, using their material, and turn them into worksheets. They're on the exclusive website that goes with the audiobook, and they are also in print here, copy in the print book. On the audio website, all of those resources that are in the book here, they're all PDF downloadable, all right? If you're going to PDF download, please don't have a million pieces of paper printed out. Please make it into a binder, all right? 3-hole punch it. You can probably do that at Staples or some other store. You don't even need to have a 3-hole puncher. Print them off and go and 3-hole punch, make a binder, and then you've got a resource to go back to. Okay, or give me a call and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Okay, look here now. Love the sharing. We're in, yes, we are in this together. Stand up for ourselves. You're right. No compromise. Well, no compromise. I'm going to say no capitulation. All right. No capitulation. If your needs aren't being met, somebody at the expense of somebody else's, they are being met, and you're needing them or they're insisting on it, then what I'm going to suggest you do is you work out a compromise. You don't compromise your A-list needs, and you don't compromise your B-list needs on a regular basis. All right? No capitulation. It's not one at the expense of the other. It is one in tandem with. Everybody needs their A-list needs. Everybody needs all the time. Everybody needs their B-list needs a good deal of the time. All right. But that can happen synergistically. It isn't at the expense. Kindness and trust. Like Elaine said, you're welcome. You're welcome, Marie. It's a pleasure. Yes, event plus response equals outcome. It sure does. So you want to choose the event. You want to go on pause and make a considered decision, not a knee-jerk default reaction. All right. You'll notice Joseph has not said event plus reaction. Response. I'm going to really encourage you, go on pause and make a considered decision about what your response will be. And that will heavily weigh a positive outcome. We see, yes, we do see what we want to see. It's related, yes, selective attention and confirmation bias. Absolutely. All right. But that's not our destiny. We don't have to settle for that. We can question ourselves. All right. We can challenge ourselves. Yes, Leslie says we have refugees coming from Afghanistan now. They will be in need. They will be in desperate need. They will be traumatized. All right. They fled with their lives. They have left everything they've worked for behind. And they're starting fresh. If you have anything to share, all right, whether you believe in the cause, just look at them as humanity. All right. It doesn't matter whether you believe in what they believe in. It doesn't matter whether you agree with whether anybody should have ever been in Afghanistan. Don't get caught up in the nonsense and the bias and the politics. They're human beings. All right. They could be you. This world could have been constructed that we'd be on the escaping end of things rather than escaping to. That could have happened. All right. Just treat people like important, valuable human beings and share what you can. Elaine, these jolts of joy don't really work. True, mine last about 10 seconds. Better than not 10 seconds, but some do last. It's tricky. I have watery eyes with your comments. It's good awareness. Awareness is good. It is good. Little jolts of joy and little happinesses, there's more than enough. If it doesn't last forever, find what the next offering is in the next circumstance. It's there. Just because one exits and doesn't last doesn't mean that there isn't a bounty of other options. And I'm not being a Pollyanna. I've had to make that struggle myself. I talk about it in the book. I promise you it's true. All right? If something disappears, it's being replaced by at least its equivalent and a bounty of it. And sometimes they do only last a second. All right? Sometimes they do. But second to second to second to second is still joy. Lucas says, gotta run, but this is very helpful. We hope to see you again, Lucas, Jacob, and somebody. All right. Alana, please share the book. It's in the chat, Alana. And for the Boundaries series, the workbook and summary via chat and email ASAP. Please share book title, author, and pub date for today's recommendations. Publication date is, let me have a look. Sorry. Where the heck is the page? Oh, it's stuck here. Hold on. It is copyright 2019. It is by 2020 Ballantine, Ballantine Books, trade paperback edition. Random House Books also.com. Yeah. Okay. Too many similar titles. The workbook for Boundaries. Which workbook? Are you talking about the workbook for Boundaries? You tell me which one. Send me an email. All right. Send me an email which workbook you're talking about. The worksheets that I was talking about are on the exclusive website that goes with the audiobook version of Conquer the Clutter, Strategies to Identify, Manage, and Overcome Hoarding, this book. All right. And it came out in October 2019, and it is published by Johns Hopkins University Press, which was a thrill of a lifetime. Okay. I've learned that the choice is always yours, including not choosing. That is true. Sometimes, however, it feels like an uphill struggle, to make the choice. I get that, but it's worth learning how to do it. And it's worth never giving up on yourself. Do not see the book title. If you go back in the chat, right back up to the beginning, okay? Chantel put the book title in and the authors. Okay. What was Procrastination? Procrastination by Jane Burka, Janeburka, and Leonora, Leonara, I think, Yuen, procrastination, why you do it, and how you can stop now. All right. Burnout is not. Chantel, can you retype the burnout? Yeah, it gave me something to do during COVID. Wink, wink. It is procrastination, but there's a subtitle, How You Can Stop Now, by Jane Burka. That's enough information there, yeah. Jane Burka and Leonora Yuen. Procrastination book doesn't talk about hoarding. The hoarding book talks about procrastination. Yeah, but the two books go hand in hand, because anything that is in the procrastination book can be applied to some level of hoarding, for sure. And the hoarding book, Conquer the Clutter, Strategies to Identify, Manage, and Overcome Hoarding, talks about procrastination. It also, thanks to Jane Burke and Leonora Yuen, have some worksheets in it. If you prefer the audiobook, you can get that as well. And all of the worksheets, all of the tools, all of the resources are PDF downloadable. They're interactive, and many of them are tabulatable, all right, in real time. Yeah, and you can track yourself, progress or not. All right, let me have a look. All right, well, we are at an end. So thank you everyone for hanging in. And I will continue with the burnout topic next week, because there's a lot to be said about it, and how to manage and how to extricate yourself from personal and emotional burnout. See you next week, everybody. Make it a great one.